I clutched the small wrapped box in my sweaty palms as I walked into the Peterson family dining room. The tables sparkled with expensive china and crystal glasses. Everyone was already seated, their designer clothes making my simple dress look shabby. My husband Tyler sat next to his mother, Victoria, who wore pearls and a cold smile. "Maya, dear," Victoria said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "How lovely you could join us." Her eyes dropped to my gift with obvious disgust. I had spent weeks making it by hand, using techniques my late grandmother taught me. Inside was a small jewelry box I'd crafted from wood, decorated with tiny beads that had been in my family for generations. "I brought something for the gift exchange," I said quietly, placing it on the side table with the other presents. Victoria's gift was clearly expensive, wrapped in gold paper with a huge bow. Next to it, mine looked pitiful. Tyler barely glanced at me as I sat down. His attention was focused on his mother, hanging on her every word. Grandpa Henry sat at the head of the table, his kind eyes meeting mine with a warm smile. He was the only person in this family who had ever made me feel welcome. "Before we eat," Victoria announced, "let's open our exchange gifts. It'll be such fun to see what everyone brought." She reached for the prettiest package first, of course, her own. Inside was an expensive silk scarf that everyone praised loudly. One by one, the gifts were opened: designer candles, fancy wine, jewelry from boutique stores. Each gift received polite applause and compliments. My stomach twisted tighter with each passing moment. Finally, Victoria picked up my small box with 2 fingers, like it might contaminate her. "Oh, and this little thing." She unwrapped it slowly, making a show of examining the paper. "How creative." She opened the wooden box and pulled out the small jewelry holder inside. I had carved delicate flowers into the wood and decorated with my grandmother's antique beads. It had taken me 3 weeks to complete. "Well," Victoria said loudly, "isn't this quaint? A little craft project." She held it up for everyone to see, and I heard Tyler snicker beside her. The sound hit me like a slap. "Very homemade," someone else muttered, and nervous laughter filled the room. My face burned with shame. Tyler was actually smirking at me. My own husband was enjoying my humiliation. He caught Victoria's eye, and they shared a look that made my stomach drop. In that moment, I realized he had always let his mother treat me badly. But tonight felt different. Tonight, he was joining in. Maya always was the crafty type. She thinks handmade means more valuable. More laughter rippled around the table. I wanted to disappear into the floor. But then I noticed Grandpa Henry. He wasn't laughing. His weathered hands gripped his napkin, and his eyes were fixed at me with something I couldn't quite read. Not pity exactly, but understanding, like he saw something the others missed. "I think it's beautiful," Grandpa Henry said, quietly. His voice cut through the laughter like a knife. "Real craftsmanship is rare these days." Victoria's smile faltered for just a moment before she regained her composure. "Of course, Dad, it's very sweet." But her tone made it clear she thought it was anything but. I felt tears threatening to spill, but I held them back. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. "Excuse me," I whispered, standing from the table. "I need to use the restroom." I hurried down the hallway, desperate to escape their stares and whispers. Before I reached the bathroom door, I felt a gentle hand on my arm. Grandpa Henry had followed me. His kind eyes were full of concern, and for a moment, I almost lost my composure completely. "Don't let them see you break, Maya," he said quietly. "That gift is worth more than all their nonsense combined." He pressed something into my palm, a folded piece of paper. "Don't open this until later tonight. Promise me." I nodded, too emotional to speak. He squeezed my shoulder gently before shuffling back towards the dining room. I slipped the note into my pocket and went into the bathroom to collect myself. In the mirror, I saw my red-rimmed eyes and flushed cheeks. I splashed cold water on my face and took deep breaths. Whatever was in that note, Grandpa Henry believed in me. That had to count for something. When I returned to the table, the conversation had moved on to other topics, but I could still feel Victoria's satisfied smirk following me as I took my seat. After dinner, Victoria stood with her wine glass high. "I'd like to make a toast," she announced, waiting for everyone's attention, "to family traditions and to people who understand the value of real gifts." Her eyes met mine across the table. "Not everyone appreciates quality, but those who do deserve recognition." The adults around the table raised their glasses and murmured agreement. I sat frozen in my chair, my untouched wine growing warm in my hand. The message was clear. I didn't belong here, and my gift was an embarrassment. Tyler raised his glass enthusiastically, beaming at his mother like she'd just delivered the speech of the century. "Hear, hear," he said loudly, "to people who have class." He actually winked at Victoria. I started to push back from the table, ready to leave and never come back. But Grandpa Henry's eyes found mine across the room. He didn't raise his glass. Instead, he gave me the slightest nod as if urging me to stay strong. Something in his expression told me to hold on. "Thank you, Victoria," I managed to say, my voice barely steady. "That was very illuminating. I could play this game too, even if it killed me inside." Tyler's sister Emma had been quiet all evening, as usual. She rarely spoke up when her mother was holding court. But as Victoria continued basking in the approval of her toast, Emma slipped me a folded napkin under the table. I opened it carefully in my lap. In small handwriting, it read, "You don't deserve this. I'm sorry." I looked up at Emma, surprised. She gave me a tiny, sympathetic smile before turning back to her plate. It was the first sign of kindness I'd received all evening, besides Grandpa Henry's support. Maybe I wasn't completely alone after all. Emma had always seemed nice enough, but she lived in fear of her mother's sharp tongue just like I did. The small gesture gave me a flicker of hope. If Emma could see how wrong this treatment was, maybe others could too. Maybe I wasn't crazy for feeling hurt and angry about the constant humiliation. I tucked the napkin into my pocket next to Grandpa Henry's note. 2 small acts of rebellion against Victoria's reign of cruelty. It wasn't much, but it was something. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of forced conversation and fake laughter. I counted the minutes until I could escape. As the adults chatted over coffee, my mind drifted back to the 3 weeks I'd spent making that jewelry box. I could still see my grandmother's gentle hands guiding mine as she taught me to carve wood when I was 12 years old. "The most precious things are made with love," she had told me. "Anyone can buy something expensive, but only someone who cares will spend hours creating something by hand." Those antique beads I've used had been hers too, passed down through generations of women in my family. The box wasn't just cheap or crafty. It was my heritage, my history, my heart poured into wood and metal. Victoria had dismissed it like garbage, and Tyler had laughed along. The betrayal cut deeper with each passing moment. I thought about my grandmother's weathered hand and patient smile. She would have loved that little jewelry box. She would have seen the hours of careful work, the love in every detail. But she was gone, and I was surrounded by people who valued price tags over heart. The memory of her voice gave me strength. I wouldn't let them make me ashamed of who I was or where I came from. "You know," Grandpa Henry said, his voice carrying across the dining room, "when I was a young man, I learned something important about appearances." Everyone turned to listen. He rarely told stories during family gatherings. "I once knew a man who wore the finest suits money could buy," he continued, his eyes finding mine. "But his character was threadbare. And I knew another man who wore patched clothes but had a heart of gold." He paused meaningfully. "Sometimes the most valuable things don't look like much on the surface." Victoria shifted uncomfortably in her chair. That's very nice, Dad, but surely you're not suggesting that expensive things don't matter at all. I'm suggesting that people who think money equals class usually have neither, Grandpa Henry replied calmly. The room fell silent. His words hung in the air like a challenge. I felt a rush of gratitude toward him. He was defending me without naming names, but everyone understood his meaning. For the first time all evening, Victoria looked genuinely rattled. Tyler cleared his throat awkwardly, clearly torn between supporting his mother and respecting his grandfather. The power dynamics in this family were more complicated than I'd realized. Later, when Tyler and I were alone in the guest bedroom, I finally confronted him. "How could you laugh at me like that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "How could you join your mother in humiliating me?" Tyler shrugged, not even looking up from his phone. "You're overreacting, Maya. It was just a joke. You need to lighten up." He said it so casually, like my feelings didn't matter at all. "A joke?" I stared at him in disbelief. "Your mother basically called my gift trash in front of your entire family, and you laughed?" "Look," Tyler said, finally meeting my eyes, "my mom has high standards. Maybe next time you could buy something instead of making it. It would save everyone the awkwardness." His words hit me like ice water. This was the man I'd married, the man who was supposed to protect and cherish me. Instead, he was asking me to change who I was to please his mother? That gift meant something to me. It was made with love, with my grandmother's techniques and beads, but you don't care about any of that, do you? Tyler rolled his eyes. "Here we go with the dead grandmother again. Get over it, Maya. Join the real world." I couldn't sleep that night. I kept replaying Tyler's cruel words and Victoria's mocking laughter. But around midnight, I remembered the note Grandpa Henry had given me. I crept to the bathroom and unfolded it carefully. In his shaky handwriting, it read, "The cheapest things can be priceless. Don't forget what you carry. Your time is coming. H." I read it 3 times, trying to understand what he meant. What did I carry? What time was coming? The note was cryptic, but something about his words gave me strength. I slipped back into bed, the note tucked safely in my pajama pocket. Tyler was snoring beside me, completely unbothered by our fight. He probably thought the matter was settled, that I would just accept his mother's treatment like I always did. But something had shifted inside me tonight. Maybe it was Grandpa Henry's support, or Emma's quiet kindness, or just the final straw of Tyler's betrayal. I was tired of being the family punching bag. When I finally drifted off to sleep, I dreamed of my grandmother's hands teaching me to carve, her voice telling me that love was the most valuable thing of all. The next morning at breakfast, Victoria was still basking in her victory from the night before. "I do hope everyone enjoyed the gift exchange. It's so important to maintain family traditions with proper gifts." She glanced at me meaningfully, and I felt my jaw clench. But before I could respond, Grandpa Henry spoke up. "Victoria, could you pass the coffee?" he asked mildly. Then, looking directly at me, he added, "Maya, I was hoping you could help me with something later. I need someone with an eye for quality craftsmanship." Tyler looked surprised. "What kind of help, Grandpa?" "Oh, just some family items that need organizing. Maya has a special appreciation for handmade things. It's a rare quality these days." Victoria's smile tightened. "I'm sure Tyler could help with whatever you need, Dad." "No," Grandpa Henry said firmly. "I specifically need Maya's skills. Some things can't be rushed or bought. They require patience and understanding." I felt a warm glow in my chest. He was still defending me, still making it clear that he valued what I brought to the family. Victoria looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. After breakfast, Victoria insisted on taking the traditional family photo. "Everyone gather around," she commanded, positioning people like chess pieces. "Tyler, you stand here by me. Emma, on the other side." When it came to placing me, Victoria waved her hand dismissively. "Maya, you can stand at the end there." She positioned me at the very edge of the group, where I would barely be visible in the final photo. I stood where she pointed, feeling invisible and unwanted. But just as the camera was about to click, Grandpa Henry stepped away from the center of the group. "Actually," he said, moving to my side, "I'd like to stand next to Maya." He put his arm around my shoulders and smiled warmly. "She's special, this one." Victoria's face darkened, but she couldn't object without making a scene. The photographer snapped several photos with Grandpa Henry proudly standing beside me, his message clear to anyone with eyes to see. "Beautiful family," the photographer said, packing up his equipment. "You can really see the love between generations." Grandpa Henry squeezed my shoulder gently. In that moment, I felt like I truly belonged somewhere, even if it wasn't with Tyler or his mother. The drive home was silent and tense. Tyler gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary, his jaw set in an angry line. I could practically feel his irritation radiating across the car. Finally, he exploded. "What was that back there? You completely embarrassed me with that pathetic gift, and then you had to go crying to Grandpa like a little kid." "I didn't cry to anyone," I said quietly. "Your grandfather was just being kind." "Kind? He was undermining my mother in her own house, and you loved every second of it, didn't you?" His voice was full of venom. "Your mother basically called my gift trash in front of your entire family, and you laughed?" "Look," Tyler said, finally meeting my eyes, "my mom has high standards. Maybe next time you could buy something instead of making it. It would save everyone the awkwardness." His words cut deep, because I realized something terrible. Our marriage might not survive this level of disrespect. When your own husband joins in mocking you, what's left to save? The next morning, the phone rang while I was having my coffee. Tyler had already left for work without saying goodbye, still angry about our argument. "Maya, dear, it's Grandpa Henry," came the familiar voice through the receiver. "Could you meet me for lunch today? There's something important I need to discuss with you." His tone was urgent, but kind, just like when he gave me the note. "Of course," I said immediately. "Is everything okay?" "Everything will be," he said mysteriously. "Meet me at Carson's Cafe at noon. And Maya, bring that jewelry box you made. There's something you need to know about it." My heart started racing. What could he possibly know about my gift? "Grandpa Henry, what's this about?" "All in good time, dear. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this." The line went dead, leaving me staring at the phone in confusion. I spent the rest of the morning wondering what he could possibly want to tell me. Whatever it was, it had to do with my grandmother's jewelry box. My hands trembled slightly as I wrapped it back up to bring with me. At the cafe, Grandpa Henry was already waiting in a corner booth, his weathered hands folded on the table. He smiled when he saw me, but there was something serious in his eyes. "Thank you for coming, Maya," he said, standing to hug me. "I know yesterday was difficult for you." I sat across from him and placed the wrapped jewelry box on the table between us. "You said there was something I needed to know about this?" Grandpa Henry nodded slowly. "Your grandmother's beads," he said, pointing to the box. "The ones you used to decorate that beautiful piece. Do you know where they came from?" I shook my head. "Grandmother just said they'd been in the family for generations. She gave them to me before she died, told me to use them for something special someday." "Those aren't just any beads, Maya," Grandpa Henry said quietly. "They're from your great-great-grandmother's wedding dress. Hand-carved ivory and mother of pearl, over 150 years old. They're museum-quality pieces. My jaw dropped. Museum quality? But they're so small, I never thought. The most precious things often look ordinary to the untrained eye, he said with a smile. Your gift isn't cheap, dear. It's priceless, both in monetary value and in family heritage. I stared at the jewelry box in shock. Are you saying these beads are actually valuable? Worth several $1,000s at minimum, Grandpa Henry confirmed. But their real value isn't monetary. It's what they represent. 5 generations of women in your family, all connected by those tiny pieces of history. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an official-looking document. I had them appraised years ago when your grandmother first showed them to me. I've been waiting for the right moment to tell someone in the family. My hands shook as I read the appraisal document. The beads were indeed museum-quality antiques, worth more than Victoria's designer gifts combined. But more importantly, they were my heritage, my connection to the women who came before me. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Grandpa Henry's eyes grew serious. Because I've watched this family for years. I've seen who truly cares about family heritage and who just wants to inherit money. He paused, studying my face. Tyler and Victoria care about appearances and status. You care about history and meaning. He pulled out another document, this one handwritten in his careful script. This is a draft of my updated will. I'm leaving the family antique business and the main estate to you, Maya. You're the only one who understands what these things really represent. I nearly choked on my coffee. Grandpa Henry, you can't be serious. What about Tyler? What about Emma? They are my family too. And you're the only one who's ever shown genuine appreciation for our history. That jewelry box you made proves it. You honored your grandmother's memory by incorporating her beads into something beautiful. I felt tears welling up in my eyes. Grandpa Henry, I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it. Because this family needs someone who values substance over flash. The next family dinner was at Tyler's brother's house, and the atmosphere was tense from the moment we arrived. Victoria had obviously been stewing about Grandpa Henry's behavior at Thanksgiving, and Tyler was still cold toward me. But this time, I walked in with different knowledge. I knew my gift hadn't been cheap or worthless. I knew I came from a line of strong women who had owned valuable, beautiful things. The confidence made me stand a little straighter. During dinner, Victoria couldn't resist another dig. Maya, I do hope you'll consider buying a proper gift for Christmas instead of making another craft project. Actually, I said calmly, I think I'll stick with handmade gifts. They tend to be more meaningful and often more valuable than people realize. Grandpa Henry smiled knowingly from across the table. Victoria's eyes narrowed, sensing something different in my tone, but not sure what. Well, she said snippily, I suppose some people never learn. You're absolutely right, I replied with a sweet smile. Some people never do learn to recognize quality when they see it. The barb hit its mark and Victoria's face flushed red. Tyler kicked me under the table, but I didn't care. I was done being their punching bag. After dinner, I was helping clear dishes when Victoria cornered me in the kitchen. Her friendly facade had completely dropped, revealing the cold woman underneath. I don't know what game you think you're playing, but you need to remember your place in this family. You're nothing special, Maya. Tyler could have married anyone. Before I could respond, Grandpa Henry appeared in the doorway. Victoria, that's enough. Maya is a valued member of this family, and she deserves your respect. Victoria spun around, her eyes blazing. Dad, she's manipulating you. Can't you see what she's doing?
What I see is a young woman who appreciates family history and treats people with kindness, unlike some others I could mention. You're talking nonsense. She doesn't deserve anything from this family. That's where you're wrong, Grandpa Henry replied firmly. Maya represents what this family should be: respectful, thoughtful, and genuine. My decision about my will is final. Victoria's face went white. Your will? What about your will? I held my breath, waiting for his response. Grandpa Henry looked Victoria straight in the eye. I'm leaving the family business and the main estate to Maya. She's the only one who truly understands what family legacy means. The kitchen went dead silent. Victoria's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. In the background, I could hear Tyler and his brother talking in the dining room, oblivious to the bomb that had just exploded in the kitchen.
You can't, Victoria whispered. She's not even blood family. She married into this family 5 minutes ago. She's been part of this family longer than you have, Grandpa Henry said quietly, and she's shown more respect for our traditions than anyone else. Victoria's face twisted with rage. This is insane. Tyler, get in here right now. Her voice carried through the house like a siren. Within seconds, Tyler and his brother appeared in the kitchen doorway, looking confused and concerned. Emma followed behind them, her eyes wide with worry. Dad's lost his mind, Victoria announced dramatically. He says he's leaving everything to her. She pointed at me like I was something disgusting she'd found on her shoe. Tyler's face went through several color changes before settling on bright red. Grandpa, what is she talking about? The kitchen filled with voices as Tyler and his brother demanded explanations. Victoria was practically hyperventilating, and Emma stood frozen in the doorway. But Grandpa Henry remained calm through it all. I've made my decision, he said firmly. Maya will inherit the antique business and the estate because she values family history over family wealth. Tyler turned on me, his eyes blazing with fury. What did you do? How did you manipulate him into this? I didn't do anything, I said quietly, but my voice was stronger than it had ever been with Tyler. Your grandfather makes his own decisions. This is ridiculous, Tyler shouted. You've been married to me for 5 years and suddenly you think you deserve my family's inheritance? It's not about what I deserve, I replied calmly. It's about what your grandfather wants to leave behind. He values someone who appreciates craftsmanship and history. Victoria laughed bitterly. Craftsmanship? You mean those pathetic beads you glued onto a wooden box? For the first time, I smiled genuinely. Actually, those pathetic beads are 150-year-old museum-quality antiques worth thousands of dollars. But you couldn't see their value because you only recognize price tags, not heritage. The room fell silent again. Victoria's confident smirk faded as the implications of my words sank in. Tyler stared at me like I'd grown a second head. What are you talking about? Thousands of dollars? Grandpa Henry stepped forward, pulling out the appraisal document. Maya's great-great-grandmother's wedding beads, hand-carved ivory and mother of pearl, over 150 years old. I had them appraised years ago. He handed the paper to Tyler, who read it with growing shock. Victoria snatched it from his hands, her face growing paler with each line. This can't be real, she whispered. It's very real, I said calmly, but you were too busy mocking my cheap craft project to notice what you were actually looking at. Just like you've been too busy looking down on me to see who I really am. Emma stepped forward from the doorway. I think Maya's right, she said quietly, her voice shaking but determined. Mom, you've been treating her terribly for years, and now you're angry because Grandpa sees her true worth? Not you too, Victoria whirled on her daughter. Yes, me too, Emma said, standing straighter. I've watched you tear Maya down at every family gathering. I've watched you manipulate Dad and make everyone walk on eggshells around you. It needs to stop. Tyler looked between his sister, his grandfather, and me, clearly torn between loyalty to his mother and the evidence in front of his eyes. Choose, I said to Tyler, my voice steady and clear. You can stand by your mother while she continues to treat me like garbage, or you can choose to respect your wife and defend our marriage. Tyler's face contorted with internal struggle. Maya, you're being dramatic. Mom doesn't mean anything by it. Yes, she does, and so do you when you laugh along with her. So make your choice, Tyler. It's me and our marriage, or it's your mother and her cruelty. Victoria crossed her arms triumphantly. Well, Tyler, are you going to let her manipulate you too? Tyler looked at his grandfather, then at his sister, then at me. Finally, his shoulders sagged in defeat. Maida, you're asking me to choose between my family and my wife. No, I said quietly. I'm asking you to choose between right and wrong, between respect and cruelty, between love and control. He was quiet for a long moment, and in that silence, I had my answer. Tyler would never stand up to his mother, not even for me. He would always choose the path of least resistance, even if it meant sacrificing our marriage. I need some air, he finally muttered, pushing past everyone to get outside. I watched him go, feeling surprisingly calm. For the first time in years, I had spoken my truth without fear or shame. The room stayed tense after Tyler's exit. Victoria glared at me with pure hatred, but Grandpa Henry stepped closer to my side. Maya, he said firmly, I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. This family has needed someone to speak the truth for a long time. Emma nodded in agreement. Grandpa's right. You've taken Mom's abuse for years without fighting back. Tonight, you've finally shown your strength. This is insane, Victoria sputtered. You're all acting like I'm some kind of monster. I just have standards. No, Emma said, her voice growing stronger. You have a need to control everyone around you. You've been tearing people down for years, and we've all been too scared to call you out on it. Grandpa Henry pulled an official envelope from his jacket. This is my final will and testament, properly witnessed and notarized. Maya inherits the antique business, the estate, and the family heirlooms. The rest of you will receive symbolic keepsakes and some money, but not the main assets. Victoria looked like she might faint. Dad, please think about what you're doing. I've thought about it for months, he replied calmly. Maya is the only one who's shown genuine care for our family history. She deserves to carry on that legacy. I felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of what was happening, but also strangely peaceful. For the first time in years, I felt truly valued and respected. A week later, I sat in Grandpa Henry's study, surrounded by family photos and antiques that would soon be mine to protect. Tyler had moved back in with his mother after serving me with divorce papers, claiming I had irreparably damaged our marriage. Do you regret anything? Grandpa Henry asked gently, settling into his favorite armchair. I thought about it carefully. I regret that it took me so long to stand up for myself, I said finally. But I don't regret speaking the truth, even if it cost me my marriage. Tyler will realize what he lost eventually, Grandpa Henry said sadly. But by then, it'll be too late. I looked at my jewelry box sitting on his desk, those precious antique beads catching the afternoon sunlight. Grandpa Henry, thank you. Not for the inheritance, but for helping me remember my worth. He smiled warmly. Your grandmother would be so proud of you, Maya. You honored her memory by using those beads, and you honored yourself by refusing to be treated poorly.
Through the window, I could see Emma working in the garden, having chosen to stay close to her grandfather rather than support her mother's vendetta against me. The family was healing, slowly but surely. As I walked home that evening, I held my head high for the first time in years. I had lost a husband who never truly respected me, but I had gained something much more valuable: my self-respect and a family legacy that would honor the strong women who came before me.